June 1944. The world remembers one battle. D-Day. The beaches. The heroes. But the textbooks leave out the rest of the story. While the Western Allies faced 25% of the German army, the Soviets faced the other 75%. In the summer of 1944, they destroyed it. June 22, 1944. 3 years to the day since Hitler's panzers crossed into the Soviet Union. Zhukov's artillery opens fire. All 4 fronts. Simultaneously. Not one beach. 400 kilometers of front erupting at once. The Western Allies faced 25% of the Wehrmacht. The Soviets faced the other 75%. This summer, they would annihilate it. This is Operation Bagration, the battle that actually broke Nazi Germany. By June 1944, the Red Army had transformed. The poorly led rabble of 1941 was gone. Soviet industry now outproduced Germany 2-1 in tanks, 3-1 in artillery. Army Group Center held the central sector, 1.2 million troops, 9,500 guns, 900 tanks. Against them, the Soviets massed 2 million men, 36,400 guns, and 5,200 tanks. A 2-1 overall ratio. But through deception, they achieved 4-1 in men, 10-1 in artillery, and 8-1 in armor at the decisive points. How? Maskirovka. But first, the doctrine that made this possible. German blitzkrieg runs on a single principle, one overwhelming thrust. Punch through, bypass, collapse. Deep battle is different. Theorist Mikhail Tukhachevsky developed it in the 1930s. Strike the enemy simultaneously at every depth of his position. Not one breach, but many. Not one encirclement, but several. Front line, reserves, supply lines, command centers. All at once. Previous Soviet offensives had elements of deep battle, but never fully executed it. At Kursk, they absorbed blows. At the Dnieper, they advanced slowly, without operational depth. Bagration would be different. Stavka had the forces, the planning, and the deception to make it work. The Soviet plan relied on one assumption: Army Group Center must not know what was coming. Stavka launched its Maskirovka campaign in April 1944. Civilian movement in rear areas was banned. Radio silence enforced. All troop movements after dark. False signals flooded German listening posts, all pointing to Army Group North Ukraine. The Wehrmacht's 12th Panzer Division transferred south to block a Soviet offensive that would never come. Field Marshal Ernst Busch commanded Army Group Center. His intelligence reported build-ups elsewhere. By June, 88% of his tanks and 33% of his heavy artillery had been redeployed away. The army faces a most difficult day. I feel certain that my concerns about the 9th Army's position will prove justified. He had no idea how right he was. The battle did not begin with the Red Army. Night of the 19th of June 1944. Across Belorussia, 140,000 partisans received a single code word. They detonated 10,000 demolition charges on German rail lines simultaneously. Every supply corridor into Army Group Center collapsed in hours. German units would fight in isolation. No reinforcements. No resupply. The cage was closing before a single Soviet soldier crossed the start line. The 22nd of June 1944. General Ivan Bagramian's 1st Baltic Front launched probing assaults north of Vitebsk. He stretched German reserves and forced Busch to commit his armored reserve, the 3rd Panzer Army, northward. The 23rd of June. The main blow fell. Rokossovsky's 1st Belarusian front struck at Bobruisk through the Pripyat marshes. German planners had declared that ground impassable. Rokossovsky's engineers laid corduroy roads through it. 2 Soviet tank corps emerged from terrain the Germans considered a natural barrier. Chernyakovsky's 3rd Belarusian front drove at Orsha. The Wehrmacht's 78th Sturm Division held. Ryborko's 5th Guards Tank Army pivoted north, bypassed Orsha, and poured through the gap beside it. Deep battle in action. The obstacle does not stop the advance. The advance flows around it. The 24th of June. All 4 fronts fully committed. Soviet 122mm M30 howitzers fired so continuously that barrels required field replacement. German communications fragmented within 24 hours. Bush requested permission to withdraw. Hitler refused. Festplatz, every city held to the last man. That order sealed the fate of Army Group Center. The 24th of June, Vipsk encircled. Gollwitzer's 53rd Corps, 35,000 men, trapped. The 27th of June, Bobruisk encircled. Jordan's 9th Army shattered. The 28th of June, Hitler sacked Bush. Field Marshal Walter Model arrived. Model found no situation to rescue. Soviet columns pursued at 25 kilometers per day. Lend-Lease supplied 420,000 American trucks. Those trucks outpaced every German attempt to form a new line. By the 3rd of July 1944, Minsk had fallen. 100,000 German troops were trapped east of the city. Army Group Center had ceased to exist. The 17th of July 1944. Moscow. Over 57,000 German prisoners marched through the capital's main streets. 4 hours. Soviet civilians watching from the pavements. Street cleaning trucks follow immediately. The symbolism is deliberate. Soviet records list 380,000 German dead or captured. German post-war estimates reach 450,000 casualties. Army Group Center had lost more than 1/3 of its June strength in 40 days. The Soviets did not stop at Minsk. Soviet spearheads advanced 700 kilometers before logistics broke down in late August. By the 1st of August, forward elements were in the suburbs of Warsaw. Inside the city, 40,000 fighters of the Polish Home Army rose against the Germans. They expected Soviet support within days. The support did not come. Stalin's calculation was cold. The Polish Home Army answered to the London exile government. A victorious Polish resistance would complicate Soviet post-war control. Stalin withheld Allied airfield access for 63 days. The Warsaw Uprising lasted 63 days. 16,000 fighters were killed. Up to 200,000 Polish civilians were dead. Hitler ordered the city razed. That was Warsaw, the moral shadow across Bagration's military triumph. Final tally, 28 to 30 German divisions destroyed. 450,000 Wehrmacht casualties. 700 kilometers of advance. 17 German generals captured. The Soviet price, 770,000 casualties. A price Stavka calculated, accepted, and paid. In the West, June 1944 means D-Day. In the war's actual arithmetic, it means Bagration. Army Group Center was erased in 6 weeks. The road to Berlin opened not from the Channel coast, but from the forests of Belorussia. Cold War divisions buried that story in the West for 50 years. Operation Bagration was more than a victory. It was the victory, perhaps the greatest single win in all of military history. What Bagration made possible was January 1945, when 2.5 million Soviet troops crossed the Vistula and put the Red Army within artillery range of Berlin. 90 days later, the war in Europe ended.